When your pain goes viral, turning public heartbreak into power. Have you ever had that moment when your most private pain suddenly becomes everyone else's entertainment? That gut wrenching feeling when your story, your sacred personal story, is suddenly being told by voices that aren't yours. When the whispers become shouts, when the rumors become headlines, when your tears become someone else's clickbait. I recently had the extraordinary privilege of interviewing Bonita Jalane Canady, a visionary artist whose journey through public heartbreak has become nothing short of revolutionary. This remarkable woman, with her soul stirring voice and uncompromising authenticity, has transformed the very landscape of healing through art. Her courage in reclaiming her narrative has created ripples of possibility for countless others standing in the shadow of public shame. She isn't just making music, she's making history by showing us how our deepest wounds can become our greatest source of creative transformation. What happens when your pain goes viral? When the world decides they know your story better than you do? When betrayal doesn't just break your heart but becomes breaking news? For Benita Chilan, this wasn't a hypothetical question. In 2023, she experienced what many of us fear most, a deeply personal betrayal that became public spectacle. Not just emotional betrayal from a partner, but financial fraud from someone she had professionally trusted. Double devastation served with a side of viral humiliation. Imagine waking up to find your private heartbreak trending. Imagine scrolling through your phone to discover strangers dissecting your pain, analyzing your tears, questioning your choices. Imagine the vulnerability of having your wounds exposed before they've even begun to heal. The hardest part wasn't even the betrayal itself, Bonita told me, her voice steady despite the weight of her words. It was losing control of my own narrative. It was having people who didn't know me, who had never met me, suddenly feeling entitled to define who I was based on my worst moment. But here's where her story takes an unexpected turn. Instead of disappearing, instead of letting shame write the final chapter, Bonita did something remarkable. She went inward. She chose prayer. She sought therapy. She embraced solitude. And most powerfully, she returned to her artistic roots, to music, to creation, to the very essence of who she was before the world tried to define her by her worst moment. The result? I Love Myself, a visual masterpiece created in collaboration with acclaimed director Derek Blanks. This wasn't just another music video, this was visual rebirth. This was reclamation in its purest form. What struck me most during our conversation was how Benita described the symbolism within this project. Three versions of herself appear on screen: past, present, future, each honored, each embraced, each essential to her story. No shame, no regret, just wholeness. I couldn't hide parts of myself anymore, she told me, her eyes reflecting both the pain she'd endured and the power she'd reclaimed. Not the broken parts, not the healing parts, not the rising parts. They all deserve to be seen. Think about that for a moment. How often do we try to erase our past selves? How quickly do we try to distance ourselves from our pain? How desperately do we want others to see only our highlight reel? But what if our power lies precisely in embracing every version of ourselves? This is what I call the full self revolution, the radical act of refusing to fragment yourself for public consumption, of saying, I am all of these things. I contain multitudes. I am both broken and healing. I am both wounded and rising. And here's the truth that Benita's journey illuminates so beautifully. Healing isn't just a private process. Sometimes healing demands to be honored out loud. Sometimes healing requires us to create something beautiful from the very experiences designed to destroy us. Sometimes healing means looking directly at those who tried to write your story and saying, "Thank you for the inspiration, but I'll take it from here." Now, let's be clear. This isn't about toxic positivity. This isn't about pretending pain is a gift. Pain is pain, betrayal is betrayal, humiliation is humiliation. But what we do with that pain, that's where our power lives. I'm reminded of another public figure who faced unexpected viral exposure, Jamie Foxx. After suffering an assault at Mr. Chow restaurant in Beverly Hills during what should have been a joyful birthday celebration with family, Fox found himself thrust into headlines. Physical injury requiring stitches, coupled with immediate media attention for an incident he neither provoked nor invited. His response? A dignified silence, a refusal to feed the drama, a choice to recover quietly while authorities did their work. Two different approaches to public pain. Bonita's creative transformation and Fox's composed withdrawal, both demonstrating that when your story goes viral against your will, you still get to choose how you respond. You still get to author what happens next. But let's return to Bonita's visual masterpiece because there's something particularly powerful about how she used symbolism to reclaim her narrative. The colors chosen for each version of herself, rich blues for her past self, representing the depth of her pain, vibrant reds for her present self, signaling the fire of her resilience, and luminous gold for her future self, embodying the treasure of wisdom she's claimed. The camera angles designed for emotional impact, sometimes looking down at her when she's at her most vulnerable, sometimes looking up at her when she's standing in her power, and sometimes meeting her eye to eye in moments of raw truth telling. Perhaps most striking is the scene where past, present, and future selves meet, a cinematic checkpoint marking both survival and triumph. This wasn't just entertainment, this was spiritual storytelling brought vividly alive by Black creatives behind the scenes. This was a message especially meaningful given how often Black women are told only one version of themselves matters, usually the version that serves others. I had never worked at this scale visually before, Bonita shared. Collaborating with Derek Blanks required courage, both artistically and emotionally, to show every facet of myself honestly rather than hiding flaws. The team included Black professionals across makeup, hair, styling, and directing roles, all contributing excellence so viewers could see themselves reflected authentically too. This project didn't just affirm identity, it set new standards for what soulful authenticity looks like visually within R&B and soul genres led by Black artists. And the impact? Her single I Love Myself has resonated as more than just a song. It's now an anthem for healing among listeners, especially Black women, inspiring them to embrace their own journeys toward wholeness. This is what happens when we refuse to let pain have the final word. This is what's possible when we transform our wounds into wisdom. Now, I want to pause here and acknowledge something important. For many of us, especially my sisters listening right now, this conversation hits differently because we know what it means to be strong when we had no other choice. We know what it means to hold it together when falling apart wasn't an option. We know what it's like to be the backbone, the rock, the one everyone leans on. We know what it's like to wear the cape of the superwoman, even when our shoulders are aching from the weight. And that's precisely why Bonita's journey matters so deeply, because she shows us that even after betrayal, even after public humiliation, even after having your story hijacked, you can still find your way back to softness. You can still find your way back to self love. You can still find your way back to creating beauty from ashes. When I asked Bonita what message she most wanted to share with women who feel their story has been taken from them, she said something I'll never forget. No one can tell your story better than you can. No one. They might have louder platforms or bigger audiences, but they don't have your voice, your truth, your perspective. And that's what makes your version not just different, but definitive. Let that sink in for a moment. Your version of your story isn't just different, it's definitive. Even when others try to define you through betrayal or viral spectacle, you have both the right and responsibility to reclaim your narrative and share it on your own terms. This is what Bonita did with I Love Myself. She didn't just create a comeback song, she created a declaration of independence from anyone else's version of her story. And here's what's most beautiful about this journey: when you reclaim your narrative, you don't just heal yourself, you create permission for others to do the same. Every time a woman stands in her truth after being knocked down in public, she creates a blueprint for others to follow. Every time someone transforms their pain into art, they expand our collective imagination about what healing can look like. So, where does this leave us? What can we learn from Bonita Jalane's powerful journey of turning viral pain into visual power? Three things stand out to me. First, your pain can be your power. Not immediately, not easily, but eventually, if you're willing to do the inner work, what once broke you can become the very foundation upon which you build something extraordinary. Second, healing isn't just private. It's a process worth honoring out loud. By turning inward, seeking therapy, cutting toxic ties, and returning to your creative roots, you demonstrate how self love and intentional healing can lead to bold new beginnings. Third, you are the author of your narrative. No matter how others try to define you through betrayal or viral spectacle, you have the right and responsibility to reclaim your story and share it on your own terms. So I challenge you today: what part of your story are you letting others tell for you? What pain are you allowing to define you rather than refine you? What beauty might you create if you dare to transform your wounds into wisdom? The world doesn't need more people hiding their scars. The world needs more people like Bonita Jalane, brave enough to show the fullness of their journey, honest enough to embrace every version of themselves, and creative enough to turn their pain into power. Your story matters, all of it. The broken chapters, the healing chapters, the rising chapters, and no one can tell it better than you. That's who. So tell it, create from it, transform through it. Because when you reclaim your narrative, you don't just change your own life, you change the world.